I am so excited to talk to you more about this show. I briefly got to talk to you about it on the red carpet, but I'm really excited to sort of delve more into it. I have seen the last couple episodes. I know we're talking like a day before they air, I believe.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, First, though, I would love to talk a little bit about the recording process behind this show. I know that you were present for essentially all of the recording sessions. So, are there any moments that especially stick out to you from that whole process?
there's so many. It was like 2 years ago, so it's kind of hard to remember them, but I do have some moments that for me, a big one was hearing because Erica was the first session ever, Erica Henningsen as Charlie. So it was so incredible, like, she just hearing it for the first time after so long. And then the magical moment for me in that session was her doing Happy Day in Hell for the first time because she did it in like all one take. And then at the very end, she didn't have enough air for that huge final note. And so there was this moment where she had sung the song phenomenally. And like me and Richard, my voice director, we were just like this, like you can just see us like, oh my, like just chills, like that whole, like just seeing her perform the entire song through until that ending bit, and then she kind of like and like went like this against the wall and was like, I couldn't do it, like Mama. Like it was like the coolest thing in the world to see her do that. And so that was a special moment. And then there's been a couple moments, like I remember one with Jeremy where there was one like really finicky melody and finicky note, and it wasn't like he couldn't hit it, it was more just like the arrangements of notes was kind of complex and weird. And so we were doing a couple of runs of it, and then he finally did it, like he did it perfectly. And then he continued in the rest of the song, but like making up his own words of like, I did it, I did the right note. And I was like, it was the funniest. Like I remember that one really vividly because it was such a big moment because he just kept going for a while. And it was really fun. So there was so many moments like that in the recording session. Like the actors bring a lot of humor and a lot of added like wall of jokes that aren't technically in the script. And so it's so that whole process, like we have so much fun. Like there's so much laughter and so much goofy things that happen and so many silly bloopers and things like that that happen in the booth.
Um, And as we said, the final two episodes coming out this week, I'm curious what you're most excited to see fans react to in those final episodes. This will go up after they air, so it won't be a
Okay,
spoiler.
yeah, so I can spoil. Okay, yay. Honestly, the biggest moment, because I've watched the episode with like crew and with like family and moments. The biggest moment that I'm like, it either gets a gasp or a laugh is when Pensius gets immediately zapped away. And that's what I wanted because I knew he wasn't going to be gone forever. So we were okay letting that moment be kind of a joke. Even though it's horrible. It's like he just got just demolished immediately. But I also love that moment because it is a genuine build up and it's so fun. But then Adam just being himself, I think that's also a nice villain moment for him that he's just like, nope, I don't care how badass this guy thinks he looks, he's gone in 2 seconds. And like, so I think that moment I'm really excited to see people react to because I feel like, especially for live reactors, they're going to see that moment and freak out and
Yes.
not realize, until the end.
And I'm also curious, this ended obviously showing Lilith uh, being up in heaven this whole time. I am sure you can't reveal a whole lot about the second season, but are there any hints you can give about her situation and where her narrative will be headed next season?
The most I can say is that the Lilith narrative is hands down my like most excited. Like I'm so excited to get into that story, but it is also the big mystery kind of the show. So it needs some time to kind of like we're learn, like that's the first big reveal. Oh my gosh, she's been there. Why is she there? And those are kind of questions that are going to we're slowly going to start getting answers to over the course of the next couple seasons and things like that. So I'm very excited for that to be kind of like the slow burn mystery of the show. But season two definitely gives some more pieces to that.
And I'm also curious in terms of season two. what fans can expect from the sort of ongoing rivalry between Vox and Alistair, because I love it. Radio versus television is just so fun.
I'm so excited. I think it's made pretty clear in the ending episode that the V's are going to be a bigger part of season two, because now they're kind of empowered with the reality and like the realization, oh, like we can fight back, like actually, like that's the thing we can do. And obviously, with characters as power hungry as them, it just only makes sense for that to be their goal. So I'm very excited, because season two, yes, definitely centers around the V's and Vox specifically, and it's going to get into much more of his relationship with Alistair, how it kind of got there, and how with Vox, like Vox being the threat, how that affects Alistair and the other characters in the hotel. So I'm very excited for that because I love those characters and I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, me too. And I'm curious what you feel are the biggest lessons you've learned from producing season one that you're going to carry with you into this second season.
I think the biggest lessons I learned were just, there was just making a show for the first time with another studio and with another team. There's a lot of growing pains, and I think we kind of cited all the things that kind of went wrong or caused bottleneck or anything like that kind of early on. And so I feel very comfortable because going into season two, there was a lot more upfront conversation about, what didn't work season one and kind of how to approach it season two. And also, I think there's just an understanding of how much work goes into the show and what it's like and everything like that. So I feel much better about going into season two. I think it's going to be a much smoother. And then hopefully, if we get more, it'll just continue to be smoother and smoother. Like how most shows like kind of fall into a rhythm. That's the hope, for sure. But I think, yeah, we learned a ton and kind of know at least some of the problem points that we can iron out this time around.
And of course, there was a really long stretch of time between when you released the initial pilot and the release of this first season. I'm hoping fans don't have to wait quite as long for a season two.
Definitely not as long. I'm a big advocate for, letting things take the time they need, and production. I mean, obviously I don't actually like, I literally actually don't know the projected like release date or aim or anything like that. But roughly season one took about 1.5, 2 years. So I think it's probably similar just because we are in the early stages. However, that's not nearly as long of a wait, and that's kind of a normal wait for animation. So it'll be a normal wait for animation, but I do think it'll be worth it. I think the season is obviously great. And then hopefully, if there are more, there probably won't be as much of a wait, I think, between. I think it was just the way, this show was made, season one, and then season two was greenlit, but it was through the Amazon of it all. So there was still a lot of kind of getting into that process. And so I think anything moving forward will probably be less of a wait than this one. But I am really excited because I feel like we set it up very well for it to be a worthwhile payoff when we do get season two again.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned you're in early stages of season two now. Are you allowed to expand on that at all? Like, is it table read stage? Is it, or can
It
you not say anything at all?
I don't know if I can say, but I think it's been safe just because it's cats out of the bag. There's been some posts and stuff. We're in like the writing recording stage, which is very exciting. It's been awesome to get back into the booth with the actors.
You mentioned how there are tons of really fun bloopers that are in the show, in the recording process. Are there any of those that especially stand out to you? Those sound like they have a lot of potential to be very funny.
I feel like we really need to go back to like the footage of season one, find some of those fun moments because I'm sure there's so many. I can't off the bat, like I said, because it was so long ago, other than the ones I mentioned. But the most else, like the other example of things that happen in the booth that are really funny are we do things called walla, which is like basically like when there's crowds or there's things going on, commotion, fights, things like that, where a character needs to be kind of making a ruckus or saying things, or we just have to fill up the empty silence. Me and Richard really encourage the actors to kind of do silly, funny, improv things. And so some of the funnier like line reads and dialogue comes from just random things they say in Walla. And for me, a good example for that is there's an episode, or in episode 3, where Vaggie throws Penchus and Angel off the building into the battlefield. All that stuff that they're saying and screaming from the battlefield is just stuff that Alex and Blake came up with. And it's so funny because my favorite one is just hearing Angel go, "I blame you, you crazy bitch." And that was entirely him. Like, but I loved it, so I just kept it. And then similarly, Joel, who plays Valentino, there's like a whole bit in episode 6 where he's talking to like a girl, and he's in the club, and you can just hear him talking. And Joel just said the funniest things, and all of that was him. And I just left as much of it as possible. So like all that whole time you can hear Valentino talking, it's just Joelle going off as Valentino, and I'm like, it's so funny. So I guess it's not quite a blooper, but it's like it's from the actor, and I love it.
It's even better because it gets left in, I think.
Exactly.
That about does it for my questions, but thank you so much for taking the time to talk more about the show. I love it. I really loved the first season, so I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you liked it.